Discover the sinister secrets of a cursed mountain trail, 13 spine-chilling stories exposed. Clara had heard the whispers about the mountain trail, everyone around town warned against it. But the stories didn't scare her, they ignited a spark. She watched as her teenage son, Daniel, eagerly laced up his boots, the crisp autumn air swirling with a tension that felt thick and palpable. A cursed trail. Folks vanished into thin air. Curiosity gnawed at them both. The mountains were their refuge, a chance to escape the harshness of their lives as a single mother struggling with mounting bills and unruly customers at the diner. As they ventured off into the woods, nature's vibrant colors surrounded them, a kaleidoscope of reds, oranges, and yellows. The trail twisted through towering trees, their branches whispering secrets that sent a chill creeping down Clara's spine. "Look, Mom! It's beautiful!" Daniel exclaimed, enthusiasm bubbling through him, but Clara's heart raced. She knew the tales of what lay ahead, their chatter echoed down the path, but soon met a strange silence as they approached the abandoned ranger station, its presence looming ominously. The door creaked open to reveal remnants of hikers lost to the whispers of the trees. Journals lay scattered, pages full of frantic scrawls detailing horrifying experiences and chilling accounts of those who ventured too deep and never returned. A freezing grip of dread wrapped around Clara as she realized the weight of the tales. These stories weren't just backwoods gossip, they were warnings. Suddenly, two figures emerged from the shadowy wood, a couple, faces etched with age and burden. Their eyes, deep and dark, locked onto Clara and Daniel, murmuring warnings in low, tremulous voices. "Children of the mountain often find misfortune," the man rasped. The woman, clutching his arm, whispered, "Those who enter the depths have never come back, be wary." These locals, with their wild stories and hollow laughter, ignited a flicker of unease in Clara's mind. Were they truly trying to help, or did they hold tighter to secrets that were better left buried? The chill in the air grew sharper, prickling Clara's skin. She wanted to turn back, her instincts screamed for her to protect Daniel from whatever peril lingered just out of sight. "We should go," she began, but Daniel, anxiety glistening in his eyes, inched closer to the trees whispering their secrets. And then it happened. The ground shook beneath Clara's feet. Panic flooded her veins as the path beneath them split open, revealing a hidden trail, beckoning them into the dark embrace of the unknown. "Daniel!" she shouted, but he seemed mesmerized, edging farther into the woods. His breath quickened, his curiosity overpowering the fear clawing at Clara's heart. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." In the darkness that encircled them, Clara's instincts flared with urgency. Something was wrong. She felt the weight of countless lost souls pressing in, their anguish resonating like the howling winds through the trees. She pivoted, scanning the shadows, only to catch the couple's eyes watching from the trees. A new wave of terror washed over her. She was locked in a struggle between the safety of the known road and the chilling call for answers that lay ahead. "Mom, look!" Daniel's voice trembled as he disappeared deeper into the foliage. Clara's heart raced, fear slicing through her. She sprinted toward the last place she saw him, terror tightening around her chest. The night's veil fell heavily, and everything felt wrong. What would she uncover in the depths of the woods? The eerie echoes of the long-lost souls whispered around her, enmeshed in a harrowing longing for freedom. "Daniel!" she shouted again, the dark creeping closer, the chilling howls answering her call. She teetered on the edge of decision: follow him into that cursed darkness or succumb to the growing dread. But as she took a step forward, the oppressive shadow of the trail south keepers loomed close behind, and Clara knew one thing for sure: the real horror was just beginning. Clara's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a desperate warning. She pushed through the dense foliage, branches clawing at her as if the forest itself wanted to keep her from reaching Daniel. Daniel! Her voice cracked, desperation carving through the darkness like a knife. The deeper she went, the more twisted the trees became. They loomed like sentinels, their gnarled roots sprawled across the ground as if trying to entrap her. A sickening feeling wriggled in her stomach. The forest had teeth. It could bite. It could devour. And she was unarmed against its hunger. The shadowy couple's warnings echoed in her mind. What had they seen? What had they lost? Were they part of the cursed fabric of this place? Clara pressed on, her throat tight, fighting back a rising wave of panic. Suddenly, a faint sound cut through the tense quiet, a laugh that rang too high-pitched, too eerie to belong to anything human. It sent chills down Clara's spine, yet it was followed by another, more familiar sound. Mom! It was Daniel. Relief flooded her, but it was tinged with terror. Why was he laughing? Had he lost his mind in this cursed expanse? She stumbled forward, her foot catching on the grasping roots. She felt like she was trespassing in a realm that held its secrets close, and each step felt like it tethered her just a little closer to the darkness. Daniel! She called again, forcing her legs to move faster. Where are you? I'm here. He replied, his voice echoing, but it came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Mom, look at this. Clara's breath quickened. What could he possibly have found? She could barely see 2 feet in front of herself, the heavy shadows playing tricks on her mind. The trees twisted like haunted figures, their branches swaying as if in beckoning. A recurring whisper in the wind pulled at her consciousness, coaxing her deeper into the heart of the woods. Then, she spotted him. A flicker of white among the dark. Daniel! As she rushed toward him, her feet flew over the twisted roots, but she felt another force drawing her back, clutching at her ankles like an unseen hand. It wasn't just the forest, it was something more. Something alive. Look at the rocks. Daniel's voice was bright with a strange, insane joy. Look at the patterns. Clara had reached him. He knelt on the ground, eyes wide, a manic grin stretching across his face. Her heart twisted as she looked down. The rocks were unnaturally arranged, swirling designs painted across the surface, glistening damply in the fading light. They resembled symbols she had seen in the journals back at the ranger station, the same frantic scrawls of lost hikers. Daniel, we need to go. This isn't safe. His smile faltered for a moment, and a flicker of realization crossed his features. But it was quickly replaced by something darker, something that sent a fresh wave of dread crawling under Clara's skin. Mom, I think they want to show us something. Before she could respond, the ground trembled beneath them again, more violently this time, and the air filled with a deafening howl as if the mountain itself was awakening. Shadows danced around them, swirling like dark smoke, whispers rising to a fever pitch. Daniel! We have to move. Clara shouted, panic burning in her veins. But it was too late. The shadows solidified, warping into shapes and faces that twisted with torment, eyes pleading and accusing. Clara felt herself freezing, rooted to the spot. The past lost souls, the remnants of those who had vanished in this accursed place, emerged around them. Mom, I don't understand, Daniel murmured, confusion giving way to fear. Clara grabbed him, pulling him close. But as she turned to flee, the world blurred around them. The trees closed in like a tightening noose, their whispered secrets growing louder, a chilling symphony of despair echoing through the fading light as they demanded surrender. In that moment of horror, she felt the cold fingers of the forest grasping at her throat, and with every breath, she knew they were running out of time. But then, a thought slashed through her: fear. What if the strangers weren't just warnings? What if they were binding her to the truth? The truth of the cursed trail. A final howl shattered the tension, and Clara knew they had to act fast before the mountain claimed them too. What awaited them beyond the veil of shadows? Would the secrets of the cursed mountain finally drag them into the darkness, or could they escape the fate of those who had come before? The air shifted, thick with dread, as Clara clung to Daniel, her heart racing like a wild horse. The shadows around them twisted, merging into a swirling vortex of anguish, and she felt as if the very fabric of reality was fraying. "Mom, I'm scared." Daniel whimpered, his small frame trembling against her. Clara's grip tightened, but a paralyzing fear surged through her. What if the spirits meant to keep them here? What if they needed sacrifices? She stole a glance at the faces slowly materializing around them, hollow eyes full of sorrow, mouths soundlessly begging for release. "Stay close," she hissed through clenched teeth. In that moment, Clara saw the patterns on the rocks shimmer. The symbols pulsated with an otherworldly light, like heartbeat echoes. They seemed to pull at her consciousness, drawing her mind in, urging her toward an understanding she wasn't ready to grasp. The forest whispered, wrapping its chilling fingers around her thoughts. "Mom, they're talking to me." Daniel squeaked, his eyes wide with fear and something else, fascination. "No. Don't listen to them," Clara shouted, shaking him as if to snap him back to reality. But Daniel didn't flinch. He seemed entranced. Then, she heard it too, a low chant beneath the howling wind, creeping into her ears like poison. Words in a language she couldn't comprehend. The shadows swayed and danced, the woodland spirits merging with the twisted trees, creating an almost ethereal tapestry of torment. "Mom, they know what happened," Daniel cried out, his voice rising over the cacophony. "They can tell us." "Daniel," she began, her voice faltering, "we can't trust them." But the tug of curiosity was pulling at her as well. The symbols, the whispers, what truth lay in their eternal torment. Suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath them, sending Daniel sprawling to the earth. Clara fell beside him, adrenaline surging as she fought to stay upright. The shadows around them roared in sudden anger, the faces melding into a grotesque sight of agony. She gasped as they pointed at her, fingers clawing at the air like a chorus of accusation. "No!" she screamed, the urgency electrifying her veins. "We have to go now." But the more she struggled to pull him away, the more the forest resisted. The very ground seemed alive, rooting them in place as the ethereal voices crescendoed with fury. The weight of 1,000 lost souls bore down on her. Just then, a phantom figure slithered through the darkness, gliding toward them, a woman with hollow eyes, her mouth stretched in a frozen scream. Clara's breath hitched in terror. This was no ordinary spirit, she radiated power, both repelling and alluring. "Find us, free us!" The woman's voice slithered into Clara's ears, wrapping around her mind like a vine. "Daniel!" Clara yelled, but he was fixated on the ghostly figure, entranced as if she held the answers to everything. "Mom, we can help them," he whispered, his innocence echoing in the terrible void. "No." The word tore from Clara's throat. They couldn't help them, they needed to survive. But as she tried to jerk him back, the shadows closed in, an impenetrable wall of fog and despair. She was losing him, losing them both. Then, a bone-chilling silence fell over the area, the shadows pulling back just enough for Clara to see the clearing beyond. It was illuminated briefly by a spectral glow. There, at its center, lay a stone altar covered in the same luminous symbols. "Mom, do you see?" Daniel's voice quivered. "We have to go to it." "No!" Clara roared, fear and desperation combining into a single cry. "We have to get out." But the whispers surged again, drowning her out, urging her forward with promises of truth and power. Clara's world narrowed to Daniel's face, incredulous and wild, and the beckoning glow of the altar. A shattering realization struck her: the forest wasn't just a trap, it was a malignant force feeding on their fears, pulling them into its insatiable depth. And Daniel, caught in the web, could be lost forever. With a newfound resolve, Clara surged forward, clutching Daniel's hand tightly. "We're leaving." "But..." The shadows roared back, the oppressive force of the forest clawing at her heels, determined to reclaim what it had lost. Would they escape its grasp, or become yet another pair of lost souls, bound to the ancient curse? The forest surged, growing more violent, as Clara and Daniel collided against a breakthrough that would either save them or swallow them whole. "Mom! Look out!" Daniel screamed, his voice shattering through the tension. The darkness lurched towards them, hungry and insatiable. What would happen when it finally caught its prey? Would Clara finally learn the horrifying truth, or was it too late? The shadows lunged at Clara and Daniel, the dark tendrils wrapping around Clara's legs like icy chains. She felt the cold seep into her bones, paralyzing her with fear. "Daniel! Hold on!" she shouted, yanking him back just as the forest unleashed its full wrath. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the howl of wind morphed into a cacophony of screams, as if the very trees were lamenting some deep-rooted sorrow. Clara's heart raced, every beat drummed out a desperate rhythm, begging her to escape. "Mom, I can't move." Daniel's voice cracked as he fought against the icy grip. The spectral figure moved closer, her hollow eyes boring into Clara's. "Let us in," the ghostly figure whispered, her voice a seductive lure wrapped in sorrow. "No. We can't trust her." Clara screamed, fighting against the weight that pressed down upon them. With a surge of adrenaline, she broke free, darting forward, pulling Daniel along, but the shadows clawed at them, furious at their escape. "Mom!" Daniel gasped, eyes wide as he stumbled. "What if they need our help?" "Help?" Clara's voice was hoarse, taut with disbelief. "They want to trap us just like them." The tree branches whipped violently overhead, as if the forest itself were trying to snatch them back into its embrace. "Mom, look!" Daniel pointed. Beyond the altar's spectral glow, a path appeared, narrow but clear, winding through the trees. Hope glittered like a beacon amid the chaos. "Run!" Clara urged, tugging Daniel toward the glimmering path. The whispers grew louder, pulsating like a heartbeat, chanting words that echoed in her skull. But she couldn't dwell on them, she had to focus. They had to get through. As they sprinted, Clara's lungs burned, and her pulse pounded like thunder. The shadows were relentless, snarling accusations, growing thicker each moment. She could almost feel their cold breath on her back as she propelled herself forward, Daniel close behind, their escape becoming a frenzied blur of fear and determination. Suddenly, a figure shot from the darkness, intercepting them, a man, gaunt and twisted, his face contorted with anguish. Clara skidded to a halt just in time. "You shouldn't have come here," he rasped, glancing at the shadows with terror. "They'll take you. Let us pass," Clara cried, desperation lending her voice power. "They want you as much as they want me." His eyes flickered to Daniel, and Clara felt a primal fear wash over her. "You need to go back." "Back? Back to where?" Clara felt the deep-rooted panic blossom within her. "We can't go back." As she said it, the realization struck like a lightning bolt: the man was as trapped as they were, a victim of the forest's cruel appetite. The wind howled, echoing his words. Clara rounded on Daniel. "This is our only chance. We have to keep moving." "Mom!" Daniel wailed, his feet glued to the ground as he stared at the man in horror. "He's right. No. We can't stop now." She pulled on Daniel's arm again, feeling the shadows tightening around her. The man's grief-stricken cries echoed in her ears, and she felt the urge to turn back, to hear what horrors had imprisoned him here. But she had to fight that instinct, to hold on to the fragile thread of hope that tied them to the light of the path. The altar pulsed, its symbols glowing brighter as they approached. "Look, Mom! The altar!" Daniel shouted, but the moment was fleeting. A shadow surged between them, booming with a voice that seemed to rumble from beneath the earth. "You can't leave, not yet." Clara stumbled, fear coiling in her gut. "What do you mean?" she shouted, but the darkness swallowed her question. In that instant, the world around her shifted. The ground beneath them opened up, revealing an abyss of swirling shadows, eager to consume anything in their reach. As Clara teetered on the edge, she grabbed Daniel, clutching him tightly. "Mom!" Daniel screamed. His face was pale, filled with terror. "What is going on?" From the depths of the darkness rose twisted, ghostly figures, their faces masked by endless anguish. They reached for Clara and Daniel, pulling at their very souls like hungry wolves. "Keep your eyes on the path," Clara yelled, even as fear threatened to drown her. "Don't look back." But the shadows clawed and screamed, creating a chilling chorus of despair that seeped into the very marrow of her bones. Would they fall into the depths of despair? Or would Clara find the strength to break free? As the ground shook violently again, Clara swung around to the altar, a surge of hope demanding to be acknowledged. But the question loomed: is the truth she seeks even worth the price she might have to pay? The ground roared beneath them, almost alive, bucking like a wild beast. Clara's grip tightened on Daniel's hand as she pulled him back from the precipice, a raw panic igniting her every move. "Run, Daniel! We have to get to the altar." "Mom! I can't." Daniel's voice wavered, terror creeping into his trembling body. His gaze darted back to the man. What if he's right? No. She wrenched him forward, the icy wind clawing at their skin, vicious shadows lurking just beyond their reach. The forest's howl morphed into a mocking laughter, echoing disdainfully at their struggle. It was as if the very trees had conspired against them, twisting and contorting, blocking any thin hope of retreat. As they sprinted down that narrow path, the air thick with despair, Clara's breaths came in ragged gasps. The altar loomed closer, its glowing symbols pulsing like the heartbeat of the forest itself. Yet with each step, a dreadful certainty rose: something lay in wait, something darker than the shadows that chased them. "Mom, wait!" Daniel pleaded, halting mid-stride, a glimmer of fear in his eyes. "What if we just talk to them? Maybe they can know. I won't lose you to them." Clara's voice cracked, urgency bursting like fire. Desperate to push through, she yanked him along. But the shadows were relentless, their grasp heavy and suffocating, clawing at Clara's ankles, whispering sweetly of surrender. She dodged, weaving between ghastly phantoms, their tortured faces emerging from the dark, mouths agape in silent screams. No way could she let them near Daniel. She was his protector. "We're getting out. We're getting out together," she shouted, as if her voice alone could chase the darkness away. Just then, the earth beneath Clara's feet shifted again, threatening to swallow them whole. A massive root burst from the ground, snaking toward Daniel, its ends morphing into gnarled hands, desperate to drag him down into the abyss. "Daniel!" She lunged, her heart racing. With a fierce yank, she pulled him out of the way, momentum carrying them forward as the shadowy grasp hesitated, reluctant to release its hold. "Keep running!" Clara gasped, the altar's light beckoning them with a haunting glow. It felt like hope, but a part of her sensed deceit swirling with its allure. Could it be a trap? The answer hung heavy in her heart, but there was no time for doubt. They neared the altar, the air humming with power and dread in equal measure. "Mom, what if they need our help?" Daniel's voice trembled, fragile like a thin thread about to snap. A chill shot through Clara. "God, no, don't think like that." The whispers amplified, their language incomprehensible, twisting into a familiar tune that chilled her soul. Could she really leave those tortured souls behind? Ahead, the altar pulsated in ominous rhythm, caught in a dance of death. Clara hesitated for only a heartbeat, her mind wrapping around the truth she had avoided. What if Daniel was right? What if there was a way to alleviate the suffering of the damned? But the shadows surged once more, this time morphing into a whirlpool of despair and malevolence, panic clawing at her insides as Daniel cried out, "We have to help. Don't look back." She shouted over the chorus of wails, turning towards the altar. In that moment, she felt the ground tremble fiercely again, cracking like dry bones. The altar loomed above them now, urging her forward, and the shadows screamed louder, their voices melding into one painful cacophony. then everything turned pitch black, the light from the altar vanishing in an instant, the ground beneath them seeming to yawn. Clara grasped Daniel tighter as darkness rushed in, pulling at them with all its might. But was it truly darkness, or was it the irresistible call of souls trapped in anguish, begging to be released? Heart racing, Clara fought against instinct, feeling the cold slide beneath her skin. She braced herself and screamed, "What do you want from us?" And in that echoing silence, she felt a response rise from the void, enticing, seductive. The shadows quieted, a singular voice whispering, "Only the truth." Clara froze, chilled to her core. What truth? What price must they pay to survive this hell? Would salvation come at a cost too high to bear? The chill wrapped around Clara like a vice, squeezing the warmth from her body. Her heart pounded a beat so loud, she feared even the shadows could hear it. The voice slithered through the darkness, weaving in and out of her thoughts, taunting her more than it reassured. Only the truth, it echoed, dripping with malice. Daniel's fingers slipped slightly in her grasp, his wide eyes searching the void, filled with confusion and fear. What truth, Mom? What do they want? Clara glanced at him, her mind swirling with possibilities. I don't know, Daniel. Just stay close. Panic surged again, fueling her urgency. She felt the shadows shifting, reforming at the edges of her vision, hungry and restless. Mom, his voice was small, almost swallowed by darkness. What if the truth is about us? The ground shuddered again beneath their feet, and Clara stumbled, pressing Daniel against her side. Glowing symbols began to flicker, struggling to pierce the overwhelming dark that had engulfed them. Shadows convulsed, longing to consume the light, while the very air thickened with memories of something sinister, something ancient. Daniel, look! In the dim glow, she noticed fleeting images forming. A flicker of faces twisted in agony, hands reaching out, whispering her name. It felt personal. Their sorrow burrowed deep into Clara's consciousness. Mom! Make it stop! Daniel shrieked, panic igniting. Please, just hold on. Clara shouted back, forcing herself to squeeze through the tight grip of fear. They raced forward, together, hoping the altar would illuminate a path, would provide some refuge against the horror chasing them. But the shadows poured in relentlessly, suffocating her thoughts. The truth, a chorus of whispers layered over one another, creating a rising, agonizing crescendo that enveloped her completely. With each step, Clara's resolve wavered. Doubt clawed at her mind. What if she wasn't protecting Daniel? What if she was leading him deeper into danger? Each pulse of the altar seemed to challenge her choice, daring her to confront the unknown reality that beckoned. Mom! Daniel tugged at her shirt, his voice barely a whisper above the rising noise. We can't let them take us. You have to trust me. Trust. The thought was a double-edged sword, sharp and dangerous. Clara had always leaned into that instinct, but what if it led them to destruction? They were trapped between shadows and the pulsing altar, the very boundary of hope and despair. Daniel, please. We need to keep going. She began to run again, though each stride left her feeling heavier than before, the weight of uncertainty clawing at her gut. Suddenly, a burst of light flooded the space, momentarily banishing the shadows. Clara squinted into the brightness as tendrils of darkness retreated, hissing like wounded animals. In that moment, a figure emerged at the edge of the altar's radiance, a woman, ethereal and beautiful, yet her eyes reflected endless sorrow. You're not lost yet, but the truth remains. It must be spoken. What truth? Clara demanded, desperation clawing at her throat. The figure reached toward them, voice soft yet laden with gravity. To escape, you must face your past. Only then can you find the light. Daniel trembled at Clara's side, his body rigid with terror. The shadows twitched, sensing their hesitation, as the darkness around them began to coalesce into a form indistinguishable and leering. Clara's breath quickened. The question loomed, heavy like a weight on her chest. What secrets lay hidden that she had to reveal? Was it worth risking everything to uncover a past shrouded in fear? Mom, we can't. Daniel's voice quaked in the buildup of suffocating silence. Maybe they're lying. Let us just go. But the pulse of the altar began to quicken, the rhythm resonating with the beating of her own heart, as the shadows writhed closer, urging her to unravel the darkness she had locked away all these years. Clara clenched Daniel's hand tightly, determination coursing through her veins. We're not leaving, she whispered, her voice steadying. Not until I understand. And as the figure's face twisted slowly into a knowing smile, Clara knew, the truth wouldn't only reshape their destinies, it could shatter them entirely. What waits for them as they delve into the weight of buried secrets? Would the cost of survival be greater than the terrors they faced? The moment hung heavy with dread. Clara's gaze locked with the figure's. The air seemed to crackle with anticipation, the shadows creeping closer, their clawing fingers almost tangible. She felt the chill slip under her skin, a malignant weight stirring in her core. Speak, the figure urged, her voice an echo of grief and familiarity. You know what you must confront. Clara glanced sideways at Daniel, his young face strained, worry etched in every line. I can't. The words caught in her throat, choked by fear. What part of the truth would she find? The memory flickered in her mind, a broken toy, a shattered promise. It clawed at the edges of her consciousness, the pain too close, too raw. Mom, we should run. Daniel tugged at her sleeve, eyes wide and pleading. We can't stay here. And yet, her feet felt rooted to the ground, her instincts screaming at her to uncover what lay buried. Your past is a prison, the figure said, stepping nearer, her glow illuminating the contours of pain on her face. You must break free, face what you've hidden. Only then can you shield him from it. The shadows writhing around them seemed to nod at her words, hissing, urging Clara toward a truth she feared to acknowledge. Was it truly safer to forget? Or was ignorance a greater prison than the memories she so desperately tried to bury? Please. Daniel's voice wavered, breaking through Clara's spiraling thoughts. Let us just go. I don't want to hear it. I'm scared. So was she. With trembling hands, she gripped Daniel's tighter. There was a part of her craving the truth, a need to confront the past, to unveil the terror that loomed just beyond her recollection. But that longing was balanced against a darker fear, a fear that made her heart pound louder than the whispers, a fear that threatened to engulf them completely. The figure reached toward them, offering something, a shard of memory. The air thickened with it, palpable and close. Clara could almost touch the fleeting images, the straining faces, the haunting sobs. Was it hers? Was it Daniel's? A crash resonated as the shadows erupted from their silence, slashing through the air, revealing distorted shapes that reached and clawed as if seeking freedom themselves. The altar pulsed violently, illuminating the chaos only to make the shadows darker, more menacing. No! Clara cried out, holding Daniel protectively against her side. Stay back! The shadows recoiled momentarily, but the figure stood unwavering, her eyes boring deep into Clara's soul. You must decide. Truth or despair. The choice shapes your path. Time hung suspended, a ruthless mockery of stillness amidst impending chaos. Clara stared into the figure's sorrow-laden gaze, unsure yet wanting, fearing the consequences of either side. Could she really confront the truth when so much was left unsaid? The truth that could tear them apart or bind them in irrevocable ways? Mom, please. Daniel pleaded in a whisper, his boyish innocence crumbling under the weight. What if it hurts? The shadows danced dangerously close now, snapping at their heels. The whispers crescendoed into a chaotic symphony of anguish. And for a fleeting moment, Clara felt a flicker of hope in her heart, a determination born from love. We have to confront it, Daniel. We can't run anymore. As she took a step toward the figure, the light around the altar brightened one last time, illuminating unfathomable faces amidst the shadows and the dark outlines of their collective pain. But then the brightness dimmed abruptly, replaced by a suffocating dread. From the blackness surged forth a shadow, monstrous and filled with wrath, its eyes burning with centuries of torment. A scream wrenched itself from Clara's throat as she shielded Daniel with her body. The shadows surged, crashing against them, and in that moment a rush of memories flooded her vision. No longer just dark echoes but vivid, visceral truths clawing their way to the surface. Would the heart-wrenching reality be more terrifying than the shadow pursuing them? Or could the truth, painful as it might be, finally set them free? As Clara's heart raced and the darkness bore down, a question whispered through the chaos: what lay on the other side of revelation? The darkness swallowed them whole. Clara's heart hammered like a drum as she stood paralyzed, Daniel pressed against her side, both of them trembling. The monstrous shadow writhed with purpose, its presence felt on every inch of her skin. Each second stretched painfully, revealing the palpable fear in Daniel's eyes. "Clara," the figure called, her voice cutting through the oppressive silence. "You can break this. Step forward. Embrace your torment." A flash of memory surged within Clara, a door ajar, soft whispers of betrayal, a child's laughter turned cold. She pressed her eyes shut against the tide of dread, the urge to flee crashing violently against her. What lay waiting beyond that door of memory? Would it decimate what little remained of her spirit? "Stay with me, Daniel," she gasped, clutching his small hand tighter. "No matter what happens, don't let go." The shadow edged closer, its grotesque form distorting in the dim light, twisting as it reached for them. The whispers escalated, an agonizing crescendo of pain and despair sweeping through the air like a torrential storm. Faces emerged within the folds of darkness, anguished, pleading, a specter of her past she thought long buried. "Face it," the figure commanded, fierce and urgent. "The truth will cleanse your souls." Clara felt a rush of adrenaline explode within her chest, igniting a fire ignited by desperation. Compelled, she took a step forward. Memories clawed at her mind, a parent's cry, the echo of a shattered promise. They were nails in her heart, yet she forged ahead, determined. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I need you to trust me. Whatever we find, we face it together." "Mom. I don't want to." His voice trembled, teetering on the edge of fear. "It's too much." But Clara, steeled by the flicker of illumination from within, held on to his gaze with fierce love. The shadows hissed, reacting to her resolve, swirling menacingly as if her defiance weakened them. The figure stepped closer, piercing through the veil shadowing their truth. "Open your heart," it urged. "Allow the pain to rise." With another deep breath, Clara gripped Daniel's hand tighter and faced the figure head-on. The shadows screamed, raking around, swirling in a tempest of despair as she began to bleed her memories. The broken pieces of her past bubbled up, raw and burning. A scream rattled her bones, sounding all too familiar. Clara stumbled back, recognizing the voice. It felt like a gunshot. Panic enveloped her as she realized, it was hers. All the self-loathing, fear, and despair she had shoved down deep screamed to be heard. "Mom!" Daniel cried out, yanking against her grip. She turned to see his face filled with terror, the shadows extending tendrils toward him. Rage flared inside her, igniting the fragments of her soul as they collided with the darkness. "No! You will not touch him!" Yet the shadows lunged forward, consuming her resolve. As Clara stood defiantly, the memory of her past ignited behind her like wildfire. The faces of the lost, the regret, the torment all became an agonizing warmth that crackled through her. Suddenly, Clara's vision surged with cursed revelations, like an eruption of volcanic fury. Her childhood, dark secrets, and a hidden lineage unfolded in blistering flashes. Images danced within the chaos. A woman, who looked hauntingly like her, standing in anguish before a cavern drenched in shadows. "What is happening?" Daniel's voice broke through the fog of horror gripping her thoughts. And then she knew, with horrifying clarity, just what they had awakened, a truth buried beneath layers of guilt and despair. This was the price of admission. The truth could shatter them or set them free. Clara faced the shadows, sinking into the depths of her own misery. Whatever you are, we will confront you. But the ground began to tremble beneath their feet, a deep rumble that echoed their fear. As the shadow lunged forward, Clara steeled herself for impact. Just then, another scream pierced the air, a cry filled with anguish, despair, and undeniable grief. What else did her past hide? Could they withstand this onslaught, or would it consume them both? The screams filled her ears, the ground shook beneath them, and the shadows lunged. The choice lay before her, more daunting than any leap into the abyss. Yet, something sinister and familiar gnawed at her. What else awaited them in this confrontation? A truth so twisted it could unravel everything. Time felt like ice, the past closing in. What would break first, and would the truth deliver salvation, or destruction? The shadows recoiled, drawing back as if surprised by Clara's fierce declaration. The oppressive weight began to shift, reflections of doubt flickering momentarily in the darkness. But she couldn't afford to rest. The utter chaos surrounding them howled like a beast roused from a long slumber. "Daniel, we can't let it win." Clara gasped, her throat tightening with panic. The tremor beneath them intensified, sending splinters of fear deep into her core. The shadows seemed to pulse, writhing like long, hungry snakes, each whispering her name, drawing her closer. Suddenly, from the center of the dark maelstrom, a chilling laughter erupted, reverberating off unseen walls. "You think courage will shield you?" the figure sneered. "This truth will devour you whole. You buried it for a reason." Clara cringed, memories crashing like waves. The laughter was a familiar sound. Her father's delighted chuckles morphed into sinister mockery. In a flash, she saw their lives together, moments of joy twisted and corrupted into nightmare scenes, her father losing himself to certain shadows just like the one before her. "No!" Clara cried out, her hands trembling. "I won't let you twist my memories." The ground quaked violently, as if warning her of the danger lurking around them, and roots from the earth reached up like skeletal fingers. Clara felt the icy touch of the earth crawling up her legs, dragging her down. Panic swelled in her chest, and she fought against the restraint. "Daniel!" she shouted, heart racing. She was losing him, losing herself. "Mom, I can't hold on." His voice was a mere whisper, lost within the roar of echoes that bounced around them. "I'm so scared." Then she saw it. In the shadow's core, images swirled, her past laid bare. A child's laughter, her own, mingled with low moans of despair. She felt a profound connection to those memories. They pulled and pushed at her heart, threatening to drown her. "Face your past." The shadow howled, the sinister laughter blending with pained wails. "Embrace the sins you've forgotten." Clara squeezed Daniel's hand, reminding herself of her reason. "Together, Daniel. We're stronger together. Remember that promise?" His grip softened at her words, and with a surge of strength, Clara faced the oppressive figure. It loomed larger, the darkness swirling around its edges, consuming everything good and pure. It was more than just a nightmare. This was the embodiment of all her hidden fears, the guilt she had been carrying, the faces of those lost. "Step into the light," Clara cried, entreating both Daniel and herself. "We can't let them keep us." The shadows shrieked as Clara drew her own memories to the surface. Each one was like a bead of light, and they exploded forth, illuminating the dark. Daniel's frightened face slowly began to brighten, reflecting her resolve, each flicker of strength banishing the darkness inch by inch, but the figure roared, a terrible sound that shook the ground. "You are a fool. Do you think you can erase what you've become? The sins you carry are your chains. They will never break." The cavern shook ferociously, and dark tendrils lashed out, aiming for Daniel, reaching towards Clara with predatory intent. The light from Clara's memories flickered as if struggling against the suffocating shadows. "No. I will not let you take him." Clara screamed, the ground trembling beneath her in response. With a primal scream that echoed through the centuries of pain and despair, she thrust her hands forward, willing herself into the heart of darkness. A burning pain shot through her chest as she unleashed all her memories, both agony and joy, as a weapon against the consuming void. What will happen next? She wondered, trembling as she staved off the shadow. Was it enough? Would the light triumph? Above the chaos, the laughter morphed back into a cacophony of desperate wails, and then, silence. In that brief moment, it felt as if time shattered. Clara's heart raced, blood pounding in her ears. What was lurking behind the silence? A revelation? A final confrontation? Before she could catch her breath, the deepest shadow lunged forward once more, its claws reaching for Daniel, what lay hidden behind that curtain of darkness. Would Clara's past free them or consume them whole? The world faded into a deafening silence, and Clara squeezed Daniel's hand tightly, steadying herself for the confrontation. The air felt heavy, suffocating, and a bone-deep chill crept beneath her skin. Whatever happens, we stay together, Daniel, she whispered, her voice trembling. He nodded, eyes wide with fear, his tiny frame quaking against her. Suddenly, the piercing darkness split open, revealing a maw of swirling shadows where the monstrosity had erupted from. The laughter, a cruel echo from Clara's past, twisted into a myriad of screams, clamoring for attention like a wildfire consuming everything in its path. Face your past. Embrace your sins. It shouted, its voice commanding and laced with taunts. Clara felt her heart race, the urgency feeding the fire in her veins. Not today, she gasped, drawing on every ounce of love she had for Daniel, a tether amidst the chaos. You won't take him. Her voice rose, fueled by a burning determination. We are more than your shadows. We refuse to be your sacrifice. In that moment, an unnatural darkness surged toward them, its fingers extending like malevolent claws. Clara braced herself, anchoring Daniel to her side, their breaths entwined in raw anticipation. The shadows lunged, but they met the burgeoning light of Clara's memories, shimmering flecks of golden joy and sorrow alike, illuminating the space around them like fireworks bursting against a dark canvas. Look, Mom. It's getting weaker. Daniel cried out, the glimmering memories seeming to resonate with hope, pushing back against the nightmarish creature. Clara felt a rush of elation. Together, they could shatter the chains binding them to this dark place. Push forward. With me. Clara shouted, and they both took a step into the light, launching their combined energy into the heart of the encroaching shadows. It was an act of defiance, a blaze igniting in the winds of despair, revealing the truth of their struggles, their losses, and a love fierce enough to withstand anything. The ghastly figure writhed in agony, its shadowy tendrils buckling under the force of their unified desires. You think love can save you? It hissed, but its voice, once filled with a haunting authority, wavered now, cracking like ice underfoot. The shadows recoiled, retreating as Clara and Daniel surged forward, igniting the memories into a blinding flame of light. With a primal yell, Clara unleashed a torrent of memories she had locked away, the laughter of her childhood, the warmth of sunlit afternoons, the pain of losses endured. They became her shield, each fragment glowing brighter as it collided with the darkness, an unstoppable force bellowing in defiance. The images burst forth, swarming around her parents, her laughter, and the beautiful moments she sought to forget, each piece fueled by her love for Daniel. Do it! She roared. Together, Daniel. We will break free. Daniel, now emboldened by his mother's strength, began shouting names into the void, voices of those they had loved, people who deserved to be remembered. Grandma. Daddy. We're coming. Each name pierced the shadows like arrows of light, transforming dread into hope. With their united cries, the darkness faltered. A scream erupted from the shadowy figure, agony echoing as it began to unravel, dissolving into wisps of smoke that spiraled away. Clara felt the oppressive weight lifting, the shadows scattering like autumn leaves on a gusty day. Mom, look! Daniel pointed ahead. The altar they had once feared now glowed with a vibrant, welcoming light pulsing gently, a portal into the heart of acceptance. Clara felt her heart swell as she took in the symbols now shimmering brightly, each representing a story untold and a moment freed. "Let us go." She pulled Daniel toward the altar, ushering him through the light. They stepped into the warmth, feeling it wrap around them like a blanket on a winter's day. The shadows clutched at their heels one last time, but the veil of love they had created held steadfast, refusing to yield. As they entered the light, everything changed. Clara's mind raced. Memories flooding in like waves crashing on the shore. She could feel the presence of the lost souls now at peace, the weight of their burden lifted. And in places once drenched in pain, there was joy. "Mom?" Daniel asked, looking up at her, his innocent eyes sparkling with wonder. "Are we safe now?" Clara knelt, cupping his face in her hands. "Yes, Daniel. We broke the curse. Together." Relief washed over her like a summer rain, refreshing and new. They embraced tightly, a cocoon of warmth against the chill of the past lingering at the edges. As they pulled apart, the figures of the ghostly couple they had encountered before appeared within the light, their eyes now calm and full of gratitude. "Thank you for freeing us," the woman whispered, her voice no longer haunting but soothing. "You have unlocked the truth." Their surroundings began to shift, the once twisted trees morphing into vibrant flowers, vibrant and bright, flooding with color and life. The shadows that once shrouded the forest were lifted, revealing a beautiful landscape basking in golden sunlight. Clara and Daniel took a step forward, hand in hand, leaving behind the remnants of fear. They had faced the shadows together. They had uncovered the truth that freed not just the spirits but themselves. "Let us go home," Clara said softly, looking into Daniel's eyes filled with trust and hope. "Yeah, Mom. Let us go home," Daniel replied, the warmth of their bond radiating between them as they walked toward the light. As they embraced the journey ahead, Clara understood one fundamental truth: in the heart of every darkness lie the seeds of renewal if only we choose to confront them. And they had chosen so fiercely, and as they stepped out of the cursed woods, Clara's thoughts turned to the future. It would not be without struggles, but she was ready to face anything, as long as they were together. Don't you dare leave without showing your support for this journey. You need to subscribe now to get the latest exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure you don't miss out. Flood the comments section with your reactions, thoughts, and theories about this mind-blowing ending. And for the love of all things sacred, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.